I think first and foremost, let's just say that Vancouver Sleep Clinic is our artist of the day because we are talking about sleep paralysis.
We are. And I just had a quick listen to the Vancouver Sleep Clinic, and I really enjoyed it. I wish we could use little clips on the podcast. I wish we could be like, these are the artists we're promoting. But they'll sue the crap out of us, so let's not do that.
That's it. We'll just audibly give them a shout out, and then people can use Google because that's how we find everything to locate them.
Exactly what we're going to do. So an audible shout out to the Vancouver Sleep Clinic for their song. What's the song called?
Someone to Stay.
Someone to Stay. Good. I had a quick listen, and it really is lovely. It reminds me of another band, but I can't remember who, but I might have heard them in the past. Anyway, so you're Stone.
I'm Stone, and you're Xander.
I am. And we
fabulous.
We are the unconquerable Stone and the fabulous Xander. And we are the Xander and Stone podcast, and it took us a really fucking long time to find our name.
It really did. We went. Do you want to say the few that we went through?
Oh, good Lord! It's such a long list, and it took us questionably long to arrive at the final decision to name our podcasts after ourselves, which really should have been the top of the list.
It's the easiest one. I think the highlight was when I said that we should have our listeners name us, and then you pointed out they can't find us until we have a name.
Find you till you've got a name. Like, who are we looking for? But like, seriously, like every good podcast name has been taken. And I'm telling you, some of those bastards out there aren't even using them. They just named themselves that, put a thing on like Apple Podcast and Stitcher, and they've never recorded a damn, or they've recorded one episode in 2013 and then just like, forgot about it. And now they're just hogging. They're hogging the names. So yeah, what are some of the names? What? Yeah, just honestly, and we went through so many good ones.
Earth Sandwich was a top contender.
Earth on Rye, which is something we are going to do.
The really, really bad podcast.
Yes. Unfathomably, we went through every adjective to emphasize just how rinky-dink we're actually going to be. So for those of us, for those folks out there who are listening, like, just set your expectation super low for this podcast. If you hear a dog bark in the background, that's normal. I live in possibly the noisiest place on the planet. Like, I just somehow ended up at the noisiest intersection in the whole of Asia. So you are going to hear traffic, and that's fine, because if I have to listen to it, so do you.
And that's something important to note. Not that you can't tell by the accents right away, but you are recording from Tianjin.
I am.
And I am recording Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes, and
in the US.
I don't know if I sound terribly much like I'm from Tianjin, because I'm not Tianjinese, and Tianjin's in China, by the way. And listeners, don't get all up in our grills about like the relationship between America and China right now, because that's got nothing to do with us. Literally nothing to do with us.
I send the president text messages with suggestions, but I haven't heard back yet.
We should be like, hey Trump, listen to this podcast. This is somebody in China and somebody in America getting along. Take a note, brother. Take a note. Jeez. Like, relax yourself.
I call him Donald. Maybe that's why he's not responsive.
Like, that kind of makes me think of Donald Duck. I wouldn't want to hurt Donald Duck's feelings like that. Like, I like Donald Duck. And he actually, when he talks, Donald Duck makes a lot more sense than Donald Trump does. So
well, this is good. We got the political out of the way.
We got the political out of the way. Even though I think we resolved we were not going to be a political podcast, but like, how can you not? In times like this, how can you not? Anyway, yeah. So I'm in China and you're in America. And we are Xander and Stone, and we're recording a motherfucking podcast. And because we're cool. That's how we're cool like that.
We are cool like that.
We are cool like that.
With little to no preparation.
Zero. Just absolutely. We're winging it. We're making it up. We're going to make up all sorts of facts about sleep paralysis today. None of them are going to be true. If it's on Wikipedia, it's the truth, okay? If it's on a gospel according to Reddit, it's the truth. So believe everything you read on the internet.
It's the truth that day, anyway.
Exactly. It's the truth until a better truth comes along in the thread. Yeah,
exactly. Well, I think that's the truth for all things.
Exactly, so right? If it was, like the Bible is probably just a really old version of a Reddit thread. Anyway, let's not get religious. Let's talk about all the things nobody should talk about in a public forum. Let's hit religion, politics.
Let's just point out that you brought them both up. So
I did. So if you're going to be pissed off with me. You can come and find me in China, but you can't get a visa because the borders are closed.
I'm waiting till the second episode to behave badly. So today,
I'm just going to jump right in. And so are you guys in America land? Are you all still on like quarantine, isolation, lockdown type of thing? They're in the Arizona lands, in the bad lands.
In fairness, I've experienced the quarantine in China and the Philippines and America. And Korea.
You just went chasing quarantine and isolation around the planet. Like you were just
I was trying to flee it. It was following me, actually.
There she goes, quickly.
Everywhere I went.
Shut it down. They're trying to contain you, Stone. They're trying to contain you.
It's suspicious. But what I will say is that while we supposedly are under quarantine, in America, I would say it's a very loose-based term, and that is the reason our numbers are probably pretty high. Compared to the Philippines, where I tried to leave the house twice and was walked back by guards.
Oh, wow.
That, to me, is
that's
legitimate
proper isolation. Welcome to communist isolation.
They asked me if I knew where my home was, and when I said yes, they still walked me back.
It's going to be a long walk, guys. I'm from Arizona. Let's go.
Let's just make sure she gets back to her house.
You're going to want to bring some snacks.
So I'm sanitizing like mad and wearing my mask and hoping everyone does the same. But yeah, that's it. And in China, has it loosened up a bit?
I mean, you know, ever since, I think it was the 28th of March, one of the most populated countries in the world essentially turned into one big fucking ghost town. It was eerie as fuck. I've lived here for 11 years, and what in Chinese terms is considered to be a medium-sized city of 15 million people. To the rest of the world, that's fucking huge. And it was bizarre because it was a proper ghost town. There were just no people outside. One of the things, though, is we discovered a new color blue because we call it Corona blue because there were no cars. There were no cars in the streets. There was no industry running. So all the pollution cleared up, all the air pollution cleared up. And the sky was just this absolutely gorgeous blue. And so we named it Corona Blue. Got in touch with the folks at Crayola. They just don't want to listen. They're like, we're not naming it Corona Blue. And I was like, that is super short-sighted of you guys. Like, so since the 28th of March, we were on lockdown. It was like that for quite a while. It was pretty intense, very isolated. Like I don't think you ever feel more isolated than when you're in a city with 50 million people and you can't see any other people. Like, it is super isolating. For months, we went through a range of emotions because that's basically what you're left with is yourself. And you have to learn to get along with yourself again. So I had lots of time to explore. But like, I think what eventually happened for me is, you know, Stockholm syndrome, where the captive person forms a relationship with their captor and they start like caring about them and they want to kind of go back. I've got a similar thing with isolation and quarantine now. I call it the Stockholm syndrome because I actually don't want to go outside anymore. Like, I'm okay to stay at home now. I'm like, leave me alone. Go away, shoot, go away. I'm happy to be stuck at home. So I've got what we call the Stockholm syndrome, which I'm sure in like 10 years from now, I'm going to have to go to therapy for because I haven't left my house.
In 10 years.
In 10 years from now, looking very bearded and hairy, still not wearing any pants. I don't think I've put pants on in in about 8 months. But anyway, that aside. So,
good. You covered nudity.
I did cover nudity as well. This is definitely an R-rated podcast. So
we should have led with that.
We should have said, do not let your children listen to this podcast. Responsible parenting.
We didn't want to have a spoiler alert, so now you know.
Responsible parenting. Cover the little ears. If you're easily offended, then fuck off.
And the F-bomb. Good.
The F-bomb. I'm going to drop a C-bomb later, but I'm saving it.
Trying to work it in.
Yeah, by C-bomb, I mean coronavirus or COVID. That is the C word.
And you already dropped it.
So and we dropped it several times.
Check.
I'm going to have to pick it up again later. I'm going to have to get a broom and sweep that up. It's everywhere. It's going to get on the bottom of my shoe. But yeah, but now the situation in China has eased up and life has gone back to pretty much what can be determined as normal for life in China. We were never quite as like isolated as places like the Philippines were, or like my family who's back in South Africa, spot the accent, family who's back in South Africa where they couldn't even buy booze and cigarettes, which I think made an isolating situation a lot worse for a lot of people, especially the alcoholics, who then had to deal with isolation, self-reflection, and no booze. Anyway, moving along.
Yeah.
So we touched on addictions as well. All right, good. We're covering all the topics. We might just do one episode, cover everything in existence, and then be like, and we're out.
I think this is the one.
This is the one, just that one episode where we just piss off and alienate every person on the planet. Okay, so I'm gonna go on to the shout outs. So there's a couple of shout outs that I want to do to people out there in the real world beyond isolation in
Ooh.
China. The folks I want to say a shout out to, and I'm gonna invite you to give your shout outs as well. But the folks that I want to start off my shout out to are the lovely ladies from the My Favorite Murder podcast, Karen and Georgia, because they were a big inspiration in getting this podcast up and running in the kind of format. And I'm going to use the letter F in format, because of all the bombs that get dropped for how we're going to do our podcast. And then I also want to shout out to Kurt and Krista from Wisconsin. Can you do a Wisconsin accent? A Wisconsinite accent?
Can I do one?
Well, no, the other person that's doing the podcast with me. Yes, you. Can you do one?
No, not me.
Oh, okay. It's a pretty difficult one to do. I'm not terribly good at accents, and that one is particularly tricky. But anyway, the Wisconsinites Kurt and Krista from the Strange Sessions, who I have binge listened to for 8 months. They don't even have enough episodes for me to just listen to each one once, so I've had to like binge cycle listen to their episodes. They're kind of constantly playing in the background at my place. So Kurt and Krista, shout out to you. Any shout outs from your side, Ms. Stone?
Yes, to my family who supported me in this idea of doing the podcast.
Lovely. Okay, and I suppose we have to talk a little bit about what we're about. So who are we? We are that awkward podcast, that rinky-dink podcast, that low-budget podcast that's trying to keep the lights on. And we're going to talk about generally things that interest us, I think, but it's usually with kind of a bit of a paranormal twist. Things like today's sleep paralysis and hauntings and exorcisms and cryptoid creatures and, you know, whatever kind of tickles our fancy. And our fancy gets tickled by a lot of things.
It does.
Yeah.
We're sort of all over the board. And I think that would have been a good name for the podcast.
All over the board. I'll Google that. We might be changing the name of the podcast. Xander and Stone, all over the board.
No, we're sticking with because we're also XS and we are a bit much. So
we are, yes, XS a little bit much or extra small, depending on depending on how cold it is outside. Okay, so sleep paralysis. That's why we're actually here. We're here to talk about sleep paralysis. And I mean, I think we've both agreed that we've experienced sleep paralysis within our lifetimes, have we not?
And I grew up with when I was younger and not having sleep paralysis yet, my mom would make these really strange noises and we would know to run in and wake her up.
Oh, wow.
Because she was trying to get our attention to wake her up. And then when we became adults, me and one of my sisters started experiencing sleep paralysis as well. And it's interesting because I researched this several years ago if there was a hereditary link, and I couldn't find anything. Yet, when I started researching for this podcast, I found evidence. So I'm excited about that. So there is some evidence that heredity has something to do with it.
No ways. Then I should totes get in touch with my family and ask them if they've ever experienced this as well, because I've definitely experienced what I assume to be is sleep paralysis. I had a Google as well, and I looked up like the symptoms, the things that I experience when I have what I assume to be sleep paralysis. And it seems like the things that I experience are pretty common. So like I can remember, in fact, let's go into the personal experiences about it now. I remember the first time I had it. I very distinctly remember it. And I was camping with my family and we were out in the bush in Southern Africa somewhere because, that's kind of things that we did as we went camping in the bush. And I was sleeping in the tent. I remember it was like late afternoon as well because it was really, really hot. And I was kind of having a nap. And I started getting this like ringing tone in my ears, almost like, what do they call it? Tetanus or tinnitus or something like that? Tetanitis, something like that, the ringing in the ears.
Yes.
But what's weird, and this is the same symptom that's occurred every single time that I've had it beyond that as well. And I haven't had it for many, many years. This was kind of very much a teen age type of thing. It's not just the ringing in the ears, but the volume of the ringing is actually increasing and it's getting louder and louder and louder and louder. Like in my mind, I know, or I fear that I have to wake up or get up or sit up or open my eyes before the ringing gets too loud, because I don't know, like I think maybe something's going to happen to my ears or I'm going to like burst an eardrum but there's this like sense of panic that you have to get up because this ringing in your ears is getting a lot louder and you've got to wake up before it gets too loud. Otherwise my head just might explode and that's messy. Nobody wants to clean that up. So, it's weird, but in that time of wanting to sit up, and I know that sitting up and waking up and opening my eyes is going to be the thing that stops the ringing. I actually cannot move. It's almost as though I can feel myself, like it's like my soul is pushing my body, like, sit up. But I actually physically cannot lift myself. Like, I cannot lift my head up off the pillow. I cannot open my eyes. And then all of a sudden, it's like I'll just shoot up. Like, it's as if like I spring up, like something's been restraining me, which is where when we start looking at the folklore stuff, where you feel like you're being pushed down, and like that's what folklore kind of explains it as, is like a ghost pushing you down. We'll get into that.
Sure.
And it's almost like that entity kind of releases you, and I just like shoot straight up kind of thing. And that's when the ringing stops. And every experience I had past that it's been exactly the same thing. It's kind of a sense of panic as well that you're experiencing while this ringing in your ears. It's a very kind of sensory experience, right?
Yes.
At the time, I attributed it, or I kind of like assumed it was because maybe the tent that I was sleeping in was facing on a slight incline, and I was maybe sleeping with my head on the incline, like, and the blood was possibly draining into, because there's a limited supply inside me, and if it all drains into my head, the rest of me is not going to be able to function.
Right.
And I kind of attributed that. And then, because I've always been kind of fascinated with like UFOs and extraterrestrials, I was like, oh my God, it was aliens. And I was like, I've been abducted. And I started looking for, please bear in mind, I was about 14 at the time. But I started looking for evidence of alien abduction, because I would like nothing more than to be, if any of the aliens are listening to this, I am open to the idea of abduction. In fact, it's not even abduction if you're going willingly. Just come and fetch me. Just pick me up. Give me like a 10-minute heads up and I'll be ready. I'll wait for you.
Willing to be probed.
Totes willing to be probed. In fact, I would really like to be. Sometimes I probe myself. I would really like it if somebody else would probe me. Anyway,
we can check that one off.
Covered being probed, check. But I started looking for like evidence of like, like, have I been abducted? And I found, and this is no joke, I found 3 red dots on my neck in a triangle formation. And I was like, oh my, so either, and being out in the wilderness, it's totally possible, either a mosquito had a buffet off my neck, or I was possibly abducted by aliens and they pricked me in my neck. 3, they probed my neck. Obviously, in hindsight, I no longer think that I was abducted by aliens, because how would they know?
I wouldn't be so sure.
No, and how would they know to go and look for me in the bush in the middle of the wilderness in southern Africa? It makes no sense. It was also like the middle of the day, and like everybody else was outside the tent just going about their camping, and I think they would have noticed if there was a big fucking UFO pulling me out of a tent. Unless I was like transported, like, what do they call that again? When you like teleported, maybe they teleported me. But anyway.
Or maybe they had a cloaking device.
Maybe there was a
UFO.
cloaking device, yes. But anyway, my belief about it since then is that I was not abducted by aliens, much to my disappointment. Sure. And I personally think it's got more of a physiological, biological, sciencey type of explanation. But anyway, now you tell us about yours. Tell us about your sleep paralysis. Is it as awkward as mine? I
don't want to be probed by aliens. I'm open to being
Well, now you've just alienated our alien listeners. So thank you very much for that, Stone.
No. I'm fine with alien abduction. I just don't want the probe. I want to know what's happening.
So you want to just be like invited over for brunch type of thing, like an intergalactic brunch.
Let's just have a chat.
I'm
fine with the chat.
We're just going to talk. I'll tell you everything you need to know. I'll show it to you. You're just not allowed to probe it, okay?
Well, now you're just inviting on my behalf.
You can look, but you can't touch. Anyway.
So I haven't had the ringing in the ears, thankfully, because that sounds horrific. And I don't remember the first time it happened. I know I was in my 20s, late 20s.
Okay.
And when it happened, and I did recognize it because I knew I was making the same noises my mom had made, that sort of like trying so hard to make a noise to wake somebody up.
Okay.
So that happened. And as far as the outside noise, that only happened a few years ago. It happened several times in this specific house. And the first time it was a really loud slamming door in the middle of the night. And I thought my son he was a teenager. I thought he'd gotten mad about something and just slammed the door. So I go bursting into his bedroom and I'm like, what was that about? And he's in a deep sleep and he's like, what are you talking about? And And
Wow.
apparently that's part of sleep paralysis, is to have these loud noises that come through.
I've heard about that.
And
I've read about that too. And it literally is like a banging sound, like somebody slammed a door or dropped something heavy right next to your head, and you've heard this like bah, like this big like
yeah,
yeah,
and it feels
crazy.
like it's outside of yourself.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you're
yeah.
just so, I was so convinced. I was, yelling at my son. So, and then another time I guess I was making the same noises. Of course, you can't hear the noises you're making, but again, I'm in America, so this will make more sense because I'm in America. So I, I'm trying to wake up, and then I can hear my son knocking on the door, and I'm thinking, you have to wake up. So I finally, like you said, shot up, and I go and open the door, and my son's standing there with this big knife, like
What?
obsessive, is like a machete. He thought I was being attacked, and
Oh,
so he was
crazy.
ready to do war.
Oh, and he came to your rescue. He came with a big knife with a
He came to-
machete. That is awesome. How old was
He
he?
came to my rescue. He was like, "What is happening in here?" He was so upset.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, I was trying to wake up.
And this is because like he's obviously hearing these weird noises that you're making, trying to alert like somebody in your, to come and help you.
Exactly. And my door was locked, and so he was trying to bang
Wow.
down the door. And so there you go. So and my sister has had several experiences as well, and I only had one where I saw, sometimes people talk about, shadow people or whatever that they see. Yeah, I only had that happen one time, and it was the most terrifying thing because it pointed at me and then made a run for me,
No
and
shit.
I couldn't move.
Wow.
And so, and then, of course, again, it's that panic, and my boyfriend at the time was like, "What is happening?" I was like, "I was being attacked."
Wow.
So, but normally it just feels like being in a mini coma. I mean,
Sure.
What I would assume a mini coma would feel like is like you're trapped in your body.
Yeah.
Yeah, just trapped in your body.
Yeah, awful.
Which is terrifying.
I mean, it makes you wonder. Like, I mean, I wonder. You got to wonder if, like, people who are in comas, like, mentally, cognitively, like, consciously wake up and be like, "This is the longest sleep paralysis ever. Like, can somebody just come and wake me up, please?"
Well, and it's interesting because most episodes of sleep paralysis evidently only last 30 to 60 seconds, but it feels like 10 minutes.
Oh my
when you're
goodness, it
locked in.
feels like such a long time, right?
It really does. So the time thing is off too, because you're like, there's no way that was only 30 seconds.
Sure.
It's just everything slowed down.
That kind of lends to the idea that it is like a psychological phenomenon, because like even like when we dream as well, like our dreams feel a whole lot longer, but they're actually it's like in REM sleep and it's lasting like 30 seconds. But like you feel like you've had this like epic tale of like Homer, the Odyssey of Homer has played out in your mind. But it's actually it's all happened in 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Like it's actually not very long at all. I want to cycle back. I want to cycle back to the shadow person that you saw. Do you remember what that person looked like? Like the shadow being the entity. Do you remember any of the form?
It was almost like a like in Harry Potter, the Death Eaters. It was sort of like that. Sort of. I mean, there was a form, but it was also wispy, like
smoky,
clouds.
Elusive. Oh, crazy.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like there was a face, just dark eyes,
crazy.
And then this cloud of smoke, and it was just. But when it pointed at me, I saw the finger, and I was like, it was like you. I mean, it didn't say anything, but that was was the feeling.
But like the message was clear, like it was pointing at you. There were not that many other people involved in your sleep paralysis at the time.
I know.
Pretty much
like,
me.
Me? Oh no, not me. Definitely not me.
That's crazy.
So
like through researching and like reading up about like the folklore things, like there are in almost every culture around the world, there are records of sleep paralysis and like esoteric or like paranormal explanations or folklore explanations for what sleep paralysis is. And a lot of the times it's attributed to this shadow figure, and they all kind of have that same thread to the like what you just explained now, is that they've like it's definitely like humanoid form, like there's like a head and a body and a finger and whatnot, but it lacks any like distinguishable facial features, and it's got that kind of wispy feel. And it's like it's interesting that it's to me it's obviously a psychological phenomenon. Like there's no way about this. I don't think it's paranormal whatsoever. I don't think we're being visited by entities in our sleep, and that we're experiencing this like paranormal sleep demon thing, or the night hag as they call it. But also like one of the things that
from Romeo and Juliet, by the way, as well, referenced in Romeo and Juliet.
Really
Yes,
But
the old hag.
what kind of makes me also, or what also I think adds to the fact that it's a psychological phenomenon is that it lacks facial features. And it's one of those things about our dream states and the certain way that we process things during a dream state or during our sleep state is that there are a few things that we can't do. So like you won't be able to read things or you won't see clear text and words in your dreams because like that part of our cognitive brain that processes reading and words is actually shut down. And I wonder if the same thing goes for being able to recognize faces, because obviously recognizing faces is there are certain parts of our brain that process recognizing faces, and I wonder if that's also because that part of the brain is suppressed at the time. Anyway, so you did all the research about the sciencey stuff, so why don't you tell us about the sciencey bit about sleep paralysis?
Oh, sure. I would like to lead with I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV. Just kidding.
Really good at Google. This is from Dr. Google.
Right. Actually, I'll give a shout out to WebMD for most of this initial research.
And for constantly diagnosing me with the most awful terminal illnesses when I've got like a runny nose. Like WebMD just convinces you. That is what Google searches do about when you've got symptoms, is they convince you either you're like, it's fine, you'll be fine tomorrow, or you're dying, start putting your will together. You know what I mean? Like there's no middle ground with WebMD. You're either completely fine, it's just a sniffle, stop being such a hypochondriac, or like you need to start contacting your family and putting your affairs in order because you're going to die.
Cancer. I mean, any symptom you have, it's
everything is cancer.
Could be cancer.
Like everything is cancer. Everything. Actually, look. In WebMD's defense, like I had an abdominal tumor in 2011. I was in China at the time and was eventually repatriated to my own country for surgery. And WebMD did tell me you need to get to a doctor and you need to fucking go now. Which I did.
Yeah.
So shout out to WebMD for saving my life. But I've also like every sniffle, ache, and pain I've ever had since then, I'm like, oh my God, it's a tumor. Anyway, let's go back to what we're actually talking about. Let's talk about sleep paralysis. Take it away, Stone.
So as we've discussed, basically it is the feeling of being conscious, but your body's unable to move. And sometimes it's linked with narcolepsy, but usually it's not linked to any underlying psychiatric problems, like anything deep and dark. Yeah. So you don't have to worry about that. It's sort of a cursory thing that's happening.
Yeah. So it's not like it's not like your alter personalities are taking over type of thing, and you're just not aware of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So and historically, and you'll go more into the folklore, etc. But it was attributed to night demons, alien abductions, the old hag, those kind of things. Yeah. What you had referenced to before with the REM, there's, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, but don't hold me to it. Hypnagogic is when you're falling asleep, and it happens.
What? The what? The what now?
Hypnagogic. It's HYPNAGOGIC.
I'm going to take you. It sounds a lot like hypnagogic to me.
Okay, well, we're going to go with.
That's what we're going to call it from now on. Yes.
and if it's not, just blame my American education, and we can move on.
We'll contact Collins, and we'll have it included in the dictionary. It's fine.
Right, it's close enough. But anyway, that happens when you're falling asleep, and it's because it's usually like when you're stressed out, so your awareness is still heightened.
Yes.
So your body's relaxing, but your awareness is still there. So that's hypnagogic.
That's crazy.
Most
so like
commonly.
So it's like you're physically exhausted, but your brain is like, I got shit to do. Like we can't just be sleeping now. Get the fuck up.
Exactly. Okay. That's precisely it. Your way is a better way. We can pronunciate all the words in your description, so that's good. If it happens during REM, and that's mostly when it happens, it's called hypnopompic. Again, hoping that's right. HYPNOPOMPIC.
Okay, well,
there you go.
And by REM, we're not referring to the 90s band. It's not like you're having weird demonic attacks whilst listening to REM. Though, I mean, there have been times when I've been like, I think I'm being assaulted by demons. Demons are coming out of my stereo. Shout out to REM. I'm just going to correct myself. Shout out to REM because it's one of the best live concerts I've ever been to in my life. Anyway.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, back to science. Science!
So REM stands for rapid eye movement. Yes. And so there are two stages of sleep that we go through, which is REM sleep and NREM.
Mm-hmm.
And NREM is the first 75%. And that's just where your body relaxes. Your muscles are still active. And it's when it restores itself, but you're not having any dreams.
Okay.
When REM sleep happens, it's the only 25% of a 90-minute cycle, generally.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you're having the active dreams. So your body shuts down its muscles.
So you don't
because
act
that
out.
way you don't hurt yourself. Because if you're running or stabbing or whatever, it would be bad. What's around when that's happening. Yeah,
running,
exactly.
stabbing, beating, thrashing, wanking, whatever it is you're doing. The body's going to shut it down. Okay.
Exactly. So the body protects us and the people around us by shutting the muscles down. And so what happens is basically your brain wakes up before your body does. And because of that, your muscles still aren't awake because you're in REM sleep. And so that's why you feel trapped in your body.
Wow. Why are all the stages of sleep like reminiscent of like bands? Like, so there's REM, which I'm sure the REM psychological sleep state came before the band, but you never know. I wasn't there, so I'm not sure. And then you said the other one's called NREM. NREM. Is it like
NREM?
ENREM?
So not REM.
Not REM. NREM. Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking of Enya. I'm like, is that like an Irish version of REM? Like, okay, sorry. Moving on.
NREM.
NREM.
So, and the people it affects are generally people who have a lack of sleep, which I have noticed. If I'm exhausted, it seems to happen more if I'm super stressed.
Okay.
If you've changed your sleep schedule.
Okay.
If you have bipolar disorder, it affects a lot of bipolar people, interestingly. Yeah. If you're sleeping on your back, it happens more often. So if you're afflicted with it, you should try to sleep on your side.
Sure.
And then if you have any other disorders like narcolepsy or leg cramps, apparently that's a big indicator.
Okay.
Which makes me wonder if there's a potassium deficiency there, because leg cramps can be cured with bananas. So it makes maybe we need to eat more banana. That I'm just spitballing here. That's
I'm like, we should offer that as legitimate medical advice on our podcast. Like, if you're experiencing sleep paralysis, go have a banana. It'll fix fucking everything. Like, you'll be fine. Have a banana.
Stone says bananas won't cure thee. I'm really glad I let off. I'm not a doctor. ADHD meds can lend itself to this, and substance abuse. So, and then basically doctors don't need to be involved unless it's debilitating to your work, or you're tired during the day, or you're so stressed about it that you go back to sleep. And then they do a sleep study, make you do a sleep diary. They may put you on antidepressants.
Okay.
So if you need the medication, then that's what they would do. But what WebMD didn't say, and I had to go to livescience.com, another shout out, is that there are hallucinations, shadow people, terrifying figures preventing people from moving, and that scientists recently studied 862 twins. And I'm not sure about that. This is a grammar question. Does that mean it was 1,724 people?
Like, are they talking about pairs or like exact? Well, what did you? How many twins did they study?
They wrote it as 862 twins, and I'm like, I
is
don't know
862 like I'm so bad at math that I don't even know. But like, is 862 even divided by 2, or do you end up with like half a twin somewhere?
No,
this is my half a twin.
It does divide by 2 to 431.
Good. Okay.
But if it was 862 twin sets, then we'd be 1,724. I did the math for you.
Yeah, good on you. You busted out the calculator. I love it.
And so what they found, and this is interesting because I had actually, part of what helped me with my sleep paralysis is now, because I researched it so heavily, that when I'm in that state, I talk myself down from it. Whereas before I was getting really panicked.
Like, this is
so
not
I'm
happening.
able to tell myself it's
okay. That's interesting, because that shows like you are fully conscious and awake and able to like make like actually have a conversation, like an inner dialogue, a monologue, if you will, with yourself about the experience that you're having. Interesting.
It's often a dialogue, but yes,
it's often a dialogue. It's a full-blown fucking conversation, and I'm trying to get a word in. Like, I'm trying, like, everybody shut up! I'm trying to explain the sleep paralysis. I'm trying to explain this, guys. Be quiet.
I just tell myself, it's okay.
It's okay.
Your body's going to wake up any minute. Let's just be calm. Yeah. So that's really helped me to not have those sort of panic attacks when I wake up.
Totes cray.
But with the twins, they found out that if you have a gene that is a certain version of PER2, and I'm not spelling it. That's just, the letters.
Okay.
HER2, I guess. HER2. I know how to pronounce that one. Which is the gene that's linked to circadian rhythms. You're more likely to experience sleep paralysis.
Okay.
So now they've tried it in genetics, which is really interesting.
So is it
it's often a hereditary feature.
So is it like out of a pair of twins? Like, do you even need to say pair of twins because twins implies two? So a set of twins,
see, that's a
bunch of twins, like a pocket full of twins.
862 twins.
862 twins, or 1,700. I'm not going to do the math. But like, is it more? Are they saying that like one twin may experience the sleep paralysis while the other doesn't, or like does it very much like?
No.
Are they going to both have that gene? Like, what's the story?
Yes, in identical twins, it was almost consistent that they both had it.
Interesting.
With twins that weren't identical, it was still a very super high percentage. And they also studied siblings, not just twins, and it seemed like it did run in the family, like the percentages were very high. So the study, they said it's not conclusive, of course, and there, of course, there's always variables to the study, but it is lending itself to the idea that there's a big hereditary basis.
That's very interesting. It's weird that I've never actually brought this up with my family. Like I've got a sister, an older sister, and I don't know why, but it's just like, maybe I thought like, they're just going to think this is just another one of those weird things. My mother's probably going to be like, you've been smoking too much weed. Or something like that.
Well, but good drug reference.
You've been smoking that dope. You've been smoking grass.
It's just Xander.
It's something, she's like, oh, shut up, you pothead, fucking stoner. But it's something that I've never actually even had a discussion with my family about. Like, it's very likely that sorry, Mom. It's very likely that my mother's going to find out for the first time if and when she listens to this podcast. I might have to just once.
Good, we'll have our first listener.
Yeah, and she's going to be pissed. But I might just have a conversation with her about it today. But I've never thought to ask them if they've ever experienced anything like this, because I mean, it's not something you really bring up around the dinner table, is it? Like, hey, I was, paralyzed in my sleep last night. How was your day? People might get concerned.
I think for us, because my mom would have us wake her up, that's the reason it was a family conversation, because we were sort of trained to do that because she had them so often.
Sure. And
so
so if somebody else, when you're experiencing the sleep paralysis and you're making your grunty please help me noises, and somebody comes and like physically touches you or wakes, like tries to wake you, does that actually help? Do you like snap out of it faster?
I don't, it always feels, for me, it always feels like it's 10 minutes regardless. Sure. But I will say I've had a couple exes that did not like that element of me at all because it scares them to death.
Sure.
So I don't know if it gets me out of it faster, but it certainly makes for an uncomfortable conversation about what is your problem.
What was happening? You were getting pretty grunty last night.
What was that?
And you wake up and if they got all freaked out and they didn't help you, then you kind of wake up from it being pissed with them, like you didn't even fucking help me. Like,
I know.
This is never going to work. This is never going to work, you selfish prick.
One of my exes, he was like, well, you should have warned me. And I'm like, how does that conversation go? Hi, by the way, I may fall asleep tonight, and if I do, just be aware.
I might go into a state of semi-paralysis.
Right? Like, that's not a good...
It's not something you really want to put on your Tinder file, because like those weird, those like weirdos out there, you've got to get a bit of like a...
Actually, that would be hilarious to put on your Tinder file.
I don't know, like what do you call those people who want to have sex with dead bodies? Like what was that guy's name?
Necrophilia.
Necrophilia. Like you might just attract the wrong type of crowd. They might be like, are you going to do it tonight? Will you do it tonight? Are you going to be unconscious tonight? Will you be paralyzed tonight? Like, all right, weirdo, back up.
So creepy.
Just waiting for their moment, like refusing to have sex. Are you going to be paralyzed tonight?
This makes me really grateful that people were mad at me instead of taking advantage of me. I'd never thought of it that way.
Exactly. Like it's just, don't put whatever you do not put it on your Tinder profile. Like love long walks on the beach, romantic dinners, sometimes paralyzed while I'm sleeping. You're gonna attract a dodgy crowd. Night terrors.
Shadow people,
night terrors, semi-paralysis. Will alert you by making grunting noises. Not something you want to put on there. Like that's their cue.
So,
Oops, she's ready.
I'm personally looking for a healthy relationship. Therefore, I don't have a Tinder profile, and I certainly wouldn't put that on there. So
What if
there
what if somebody else who also has sleep paralysis sees your Tinder profile and they're like, okay, this is something we can share in common. You have a romantic dinner, you talk about sleep paralysis, one thing leads to another, and then you're both just lying in bed grunting for the other person to help you. Neither of you can do a damn thing.
Your scenario started out almost romantic.
Almost romantic, and then just went straight into narcolepsy and sleep paralysis. And anyway, all right.
No, and you're in exactly the same 90-minute cycle. So of course you would. That's a good point. You'd probably be right in that.
Your paralysis cycles have synchronized now. Like, should you time it? Should you time it? Like, okay, I'm going to bed. Set your watch. 90 minutes from now, you can go to bed, and then one of us will either be just before or just after. Like, one of us is going to get help tonight. I hope it's me. It's my turn. It's my turn to get help in sleep paralysis tonight. You're going to bed 90 minutes later. It's my turn.
Yeah,
we did you last night. It's my turn tonight. Cool. Anything more from the sciencey front? Did we discover anything more sciencey about sleep paralysis?
That's pretty much the rundown.
I think that pretty much sums it up as well. And what do you think? Do you think it's a psychological, biological, sciencey explanation, or do you think it's paranormally, or do you think it's maybe a little bit of both? It could be both.
I'm a big Occam's razor fan. So the simplest explanation is the right explanation, which means that I think it's probably aliens. That's my
I was so hoping you were going to say that. Definitely aliens. Simplest explanation: extraterrestrial, interdimensional beings. Of course, like.
Simplest explanations always aliens or demons. I don't understand why we're even looking at science.
Why we even bother? Like, save your time, WebMD. Like, it's aliens. Jeez. Everyone knows that. Do you think beings in other dimensions thinks that it's us? Like, it's those humans from Earth. They're coming and they're holding us down in our sleep.
Oh,
yeah.
Or pulling us in.
We might be the interdimensional beings causing sleep paralysis in other dimensions. It's possible.
Well, I think that's maybe the simplest explanation. You may have nailed it. So.
I think I did. Yeah.
Well done, Occam's razor.
Just broke the internet. Okay. Solved sleep paralysis. One of the things that you just said as well about science, you have sleep paralysis, and you said like people who sleep on their back might experience it, and that you should sleep on their side. People should sleep on their side. It's actually one of the things from the Middle Eastern belief about sleep paralysis. And this, I know, like in general Islam, I remember being told, do not quote me on this. I might just piss off the whole Arab world right now. But
you're on a roll today.
That always goes well. But one of the things that I believe it's in the Islamic tradition in the Islamic belief system is that we are actually supposed to sleep on our left side of our body, because the left side is where your heart is on in your body, and it actually helps your blood to circulate and your heart to pump easily while you're sleeping. Because if you were sleeping on your right side, your heart and gravity are kind of fighting, and your heart has to pump a little bit harder to get the blood circulating. So I believe it's one of the things in like, it's possibly a very old belief from like ancient Islamic solutions to things like sleep paralysis is to sleep on the left side of your body, because it makes it easier. It makes it easier on your physiology. Big word for the day. Today's podcast is sponsored by the word physiology.
Physiology. That's I had an older friend who warned me when I was younger to rotate sleeping on the left and the right, because your face is pressed against the pillow for so long,
and you're going to end up with those pillow creases in your face, and nobody wants that.
No, it was more about like overall wrinkles. You don't want wrinkles on just one side. So that was her theory.
Like, how hard are your pillows? Are you you're really smooching into the pillow there? Like, you're really getting down into your pillow there. You got to remember, like,
her theory was if for 7 or 8 hours you're on one side, with your face all crunched up. Although, in fairness, I've never seen anyone with wrinkles on just one side.
I was just going to say, like, do you bump into your friend? She's like, you've been sleeping on the right side a lot, haven't you? It's giving you that look, like, oh, you're going to want to switch sides tonight. At least try and even the wrinkles out,
Yeah. She also recommended silk pillowcases. So there you go. I know we're off topic.
Fancy, like Beverly Hills solutions to modern problems.
to wrinkle issues. So there you go. Anyway, so you're going to tell us about the folklore.
I'm going to do my very best. So, look, I mean, there's lots and lots of
stories.
So I'm going to spin some stories. None of them are going to be true. I'm making this shit up as I'm going along. We're going to hope for the best. But
fully aware.
Thank you to Wikipedia. Thank you to Wikipedia and Reddit. And like, just there's actually so much information out there about sleep paralysis because. And it comes from different cultures, different continents, different, like it's everywhere. So it's obviously something that a lot of us experience in life. And the actual, so what I found out that's actually very interesting is that what used to be the word to explain the sensation of sleep paralysis is what is the word that we use today, which is nightmare, which is very interesting.
Right.
Because the actual, like if you break the word in half, night and mare, the mare par comes from Old English and it's a Proto-Germanic Old Norse word, and it
meaning horse.
Female horse. So the female horse that comes in the night. No, it actually, if you look at like the Scandinavian and like those words, it's actually used to describe a woman.
Oh,
and so this is where the idea of this old hag comes from. Is that it's the nightmare, the old woman who comes and visits you at night, holds you the fuck down, and doesn't let you move. But look, I mean,
that's interesting.
Yeah, from all folklores, obviously, because like, back in the day, science wasn't a huge thing. So all of the old folklores from almost every single continent and every single culture describes it as some sort of a demon or a ghost, or one of my favorites is the incubi and the succubi, which are the male and the female ghosts. And they're my particular favorites because they're the ones who come and fiddle with you while you're sleeping. And by fiddle with you, I mean fiddle with you. You know what I mean? Like getting down in your business and having a fiddle. Which I'm open to abductions and I'm open to being visited by incubi because if I can take a night off from fiddling with myself and have somebody else come and fiddle with my bits, I'm down.
Nice.
Nice.
Which one's male and which one's female?
Incubi is the male one. Succubi, which just the name alone, the succubi.
I feel silly having asked.
Yeah, succubi is the female one. But different cultures, like obviously different cultures kind of have different names for these. I think incubi and succubi are like probably Latin, but they come from kind of like the Western cultures. So obviously I did a little globe trotting. I had a look around the world, and I thought I'd start out with Southeast Asia because that's where I am. And in China, the experience of sleep paralysis, or also known as guayashen, because my Chinese pronunciation is on point, it's a demon or a ghost spirit that visits you in the night, and very straightforward explanation, presses you down. So the guayashen, like the actual translation of the experience, means ghost pressing on body. Which is a very literal way. Or they also sometimes say ghost pressing on bed. It's a very kind of literal way. The same thing is in the Korean culture as well, is that they also just very much explain it as a ghost that's coming to press you down. What I couldn't find is any explanation about who this ghost is. Like, is it an old family member? Is it great grandma? Is it who's just coming and like shoving you down? And really, what would grandma's ghost have a motivation for doing that? Like some resentments, like some, I don't know, like why grandma's ghost would come and do that. But it just seems to be this like spiritual entity that comes and holds you down in your sleep. And then also in Southeast Asia, in the Kashmiri mythology, this is where it starts to get pretty dark and pretty interesting, because this is an invisible creature called a pasikda or a saya, and some people believe that this pasikda lives in every single house. So you've got one living in your house. If you're from Kashmir, you've got a pasikda. It's living in your house. Not paying rent, probably eating the food while you're sleeping. And they attack you, and this is where it gets pretty poetic. They attack you if your house has not been cleaned, or if a god is not being worshipped in your house. So if you're like if you're like a dirty, unreligious person, you've got a pasikba living in your house, and it's pissed. And it's coming at night, and it's holding you down, and being like, you need to fucking tidy up because I live here too, and this is unacceptable. In the morning, get the broom out, otherwise this is going to happen again tonight. And it's also, one might also experience this if one has been doing something evil, or if you derive pleasure from the misfortune of others. I don't know if you know the German word for that, when you have pleasure in the misfortune of others. The German word is
I do.
Schadenfreude, taking pleasure in the misery of others. So that is basically in Southeast Asia, is they either attribute it to a ghost, or if you're from Kashmir, it's the ghost that's pretty pissed, or the demon that's pretty pissed that you haven't done the housework recently and it would like you to clean up. Just a gentle spiritual
I didn't know
reminder.
demons were such clean freaks. That's
you know what I
interesting.
mean? Like, is there like a demon resentfully hanging out in the corner, just being like, when this fucker goes to sleep, man, I'm going to be on his case. Hasn't done the laundry in days. Take
It
out
would
the
just
trash.
be faster for them to possess you and get the housework done.
Well, I mean, if they've got,
do
you know what I'm saying? And if they've got the physical presence to be able to come and push you down in your sleep, why don't you lend a hand with the chores? Why don't you fucking
you
sweetheart?
have the time.
You know what I mean? Like, this is like, it's a bit reminiscent of like the elves and the shoemaker. You know, like the elves that went and came and made the shoes in the middle of the night. Like, wouldn't it be lovely if you woke up in the morning and the house was spotless because your night demon has been doing a bit of tidying up while you're asleep? Then I'd be all for the holding me down.
That is my number one fantasy now.
Exactly. Like, everybody deserves to have a housework demon. Everyone deserves one.
I need to move.
Why are you moving to Kashmir? I would like to have a housework demon. Anyway, ancient solutions to modern problems. But then if you start moving a little bit further west from Southeast Asia, and we started looking at the Middle East and the Western and Central Asia, in the Pashtun culture, it is known as kapasa. And it is believed that this one is a ghost that does not have any thumbs. So 4 fingers, no thumbs.
Oh.
And it's trying to suffocate you by pressing down in your throat and by sitting on your chest. But, flaw in its plan, it doesn't have any thumbs, so it can't get a good grip, can't actually suffocate you effectively. So it just seems to be using its index and its middle fingers. So kind of like how you feel maybe it's concerned about your well-being. Maybe it's feeling for a pulse. Maybe it's like, shit, this one's dead, quick, get in. Then it comes and presses on your throat. But again, it's all like they all seem to attribute it to something that's sitting on you, holding you down, and suffocating you. I don't know. Have you ever had the experience of being suffocated in your sleep, like a sleep paralysis suffocation type of thing?
Yes.
You have?
I have.
Okay, so it's the Pashtun. It's the Pashtun. It's demons from the Middle East are coming and suffocating you.
Well, that makes sense because the one I saw, I only saw the index finger. I did not see thumbs.
Oh,
there you go.
So did it just have the one finger, just one bony?
Suspicious.
One bony index
One bony
finger.
little
Index
crawling finger
reaching out for you.
Yeah.
It's the claw.
Yeah.
So that pretty much covers Asia. We've got the Kashmiri, the housework demon, who wants you to clean up and tidy up, otherwise it's going to come and smother you in your sleep. And then we've got the Pashtun one. Again, this is just no explanation as to why. It's just a demon who gets its thrills by coming and pressing on your throat with its deformed hands and sitting on your chest.
Nice.
So holding you down, suffocating you. Then on my continent, on Mama Africa, in the Ethiopian culture, it is called a dukak, and it is believed to be this evil spirit that possesses people during their sleep. And some people believe that this experience is a symptom of withdrawal from a stimulant called cat, and that's spelled Khat. So not like the modern horse tranquilizer, but it's actually this plant. It's a natural stimulant that we should all probably try and grow in our gardens because it's natural. And it's the leaves of a shrub, and they're chewed, or you can drink them as an infusion or a stimulant. And basically, if you're going through withdrawal and you haven't had your fix from the garden this week, you might experience sleep paralysis. And the evil spirit, the dukak, is an anthropomorphic personification. I fucked it up completely. Let's try that again. It is an anthropomorphic personification of depression. So it's like your depression personified. And it often results in the act of if people stop quitting or they start they stop using this stuff called cut. I assume I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's Khat, cut. And the dukak will often appear in your hallucinations if you're quitting your cut, and it metes out its punishments to its victims for offending him because you quit. So he wants you to take the pill. He wants you to keep. He wants you to be a junkie on cut.
Pressure.
He wants you to keep chewing on the leaves. Pisses him off when you don't. And it says that the punishments are often in the form of implausible physical punishment. So he'll put the victim inside of a bottle and he'll shake the bottle around. So that's happening while you're sleeping. Or he'll make you perform very outrageous tasks. And this is an Ethiopian culture. So they think, and one of the ones that they gave as an example of an outrageous task is that you must swallow a bag of gravel To which I had many questions. Are you like, are you allowed to, is it the whole bag? Like, are you tipping the bag into your mouth and just swallowing gravel? Are you expected to like ingest bag inside, like gravel inside bag? And how big is the bag? Like, I could probably swallow a mini bag of gravel, but like, but they were not wrong when they said that it's like they make them perform outrageous tasks, because swallowing a bag of gravel, pretty fucking outrageous, and really specific as well, really specific. You can just imagine like the Ethiopian, like, elders sitting around, and when somebody said like, well, what outrageous tasks? He'll be like, a bag of gravel. If you don't chew the plant, you're gonna eat the gravel. And then
this was perpetuated by the farmers for marketing purposes.
Possibly by a gravel salesman as well. Possibly.
Oh, that makes sense.
Or no, probably not. Why would I don't know if a gravel salesman would want you to be eating bags of gravel, but possibly by the people who punt the cat or whatever the stuff is called, like
because they want to keep pushing.
They want to keep, like, if people. I kind of imagine like shady characters hanging around outside schools with potted plants in their hands, being like, "Here, kid, chew on the leaf." Chew the leaves. But yeah, so this stimulant called cat, it's a natural stimulant, so it comes from this plant, and if you stop taking it, the anthropomorphic personification of your withdrawal, or the dukak, is going to come and put you in a bottle, shake you around vigorously, and then feed you bags of gravel. So really specific punishments. Sounds like a hallucination from a withdrawal to me, but each to their own.
Maybe they're onto something. I've never had the gravel experience or the shaking bottle experience.
Maybe that would help. Like, next time you have sleep paralysis, like, ask your son, like, do you have any bags of gravel? Because any bags of gravel lying around.
Go ahead and see where this goes.
Imagine waking up and just spitting bits of stone and like that sandy taste in your mouth and being like, oh, fucking sleep paralysis. The damn Dukak has been here again. And then you
wouldn't need breakfast.
You would be full on gravel. Yeah, I mean,
Of course.
And you'd
save on groceries.
You'd meet all your minerals for the day. You'd be like, do you want a vitamin? No, bag of gravel last night, I'm fine. And then in southwest Nigeria, the Ogun Oru is a traditional explanation for the nocturnal disturbance of the people of the Yoruba. These are all very big words that I'd have to go and Google as well, but you're welcome to Google them. And
You're doing a great job.
Ogun Oru means nocturnal warfare. So now you're actually involved in the act of war while you're sleeping. And it kind of involves an acute nighttime disturbance that is culturally attributed to demonic infiltration of the body and the psyche during dreaming. And this kind of starts leaning into being, it's demonic possession, really. If it's infiltration, it's possession. So this Ogun Oru is possessing you and your body and your psyche while you're sleeping. And it seems they kind of give it it's predominantly more of a female thing to happen. So they tend to say like females experience, males do not, which, it just sounds like some sort of sexist, egotistical thing. Oh, no. I don't have that sleeper. I'm not eating any gravel. I'm fine. That's a woman's thing. Woman. And it's apparently, to them, it's an underlying feud between the sufferer, which is obviously the lady, her earthly spouse, and her spiritual spouse. And so they're saying like, you've got your husband here on earth. It sounds to me like they're just coming up with excuses, and they're kind of putting things on ladies as like, well, you don't love me. You're having sleep paralysis. You want your spiritual spouse. So somewhere out there, you're married to somebody in the spiritual realm. I assume that means like your soulmate. It sounds a lot like a jealous husband to me. He doesn't feel like he's getting enough attention from his wife, and he's saying that, well, now you're being possessed by demons who are causing this. And they believe that it's treatable through Christian prayer and elaborate traditional rituals designed to exorcise the imbibed demonic elements. So you got to go to church, you got to get the elders involved, and I suppose you've got to either divorce your earthly spouse or kind of have a conversation with your spiritual spouse and say like, hey, look, husband's getting pretty pissed. Could you leave me alone? But they attribute it to...
interesting.
It is, right? But they attribute it to an actual like possession, a demonic infiltration of the body and the psyche. And then if we go going a little bit north, we're going to go to Europe. And in Sardinia, this is actually quite lovely. In Sardinia, obviously one of Italy's islands, there's an old belief that identifies the cause of sleep paralysis as being a demonic called amutadori. Because it's Italy, I'm going to say it with that obnoxious Italian accent. I used to work in an Italian restaurant for many, many years. In university, I worked in an Italian restaurant, a proper Italian restaurant, not in Italy, but owned by an actual Italian. And it is the most obnoxious white people thing to do is when when they order Italian foods, that they do that thing with the hand, when you pinch your three fingers together and you kind of shake your hand at somebody. And I'll get this just a typical white South African will walk into the restaurant and everything else has been perfectly normal up until now. And they'll say something like, I think I'd like to order the penne. And I will follow it up with the amatriciana. And they do that very annoying, and I want a cappuccino. And I'm like, look, buddy, you seriously put your hand down. Why are you pinching your fingers at me? People, I don't know why they do it. It's the most obnoxious white thing to do in the world, but I'm going to do it now. So in Sardinia, there is an old belief that identifies the cause of sleep paralysis as a demonic being called the amatadori, which actually sounds...
Did you do the hand gesture?
I did. I was doing the hand gesture. In fact, I was so into it, I did it with both hands. I was double Italian. I was like, this is some mafioso shit. But amatadori sounds like it sounds like a lovely biscuit that you get with your cappuccino.
It does sound lovely. Now I'm hungry.
But this ghoulish creature, it sits again, sitting on the chest area, so holding you down while you're sleeping on the chest, suffocating you again. And sometimes, and this is fun, it's ripping your skin with his nails. So if any of you have ever woken up with ripped skin and nail claws, maybe you're having an illicit affair and your husband or your significant other, your wife, is like, what are those marks down your back? And you can be like, it was the amatadori. Like, I was visited by an Italian sleep demon and it made some scratches on my back. Don't worry about it. And it's also believed that... There we go. In some parts of the island, this demon even wears 7 red caps on his head. Now, I don't know if that implies that it has 7 heads or it's just wearing an awful lot of hats at once. And why specifically 7? And if you're wearing 7 hats on one head, does anybody even realize it? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't not just look like you're wearing one. And you're like, but look, there's another one and another one and another one. Like, all right,
like
chill
a
out.
Magic trick.
Calm the fuck down with your hats, please. Like one would have been fine. And if the victim resists the pain, and if you succeed in stealing one of his 7 caps, you will soon find a hidden treasure, which I think is lovely. Like, that's why I kind of like this one, because there's actually a reward at the end of this one. So all the rest of them are like, you're being possessed and infiltrated by demons. You're cheating on me with your spiritual spouse. You haven't done the housework. But if you're from Italy, you want to steal the red cap off his head because you're going to get a treasure. No specifics as to what that treasure might be. And I hope it's not one of those the reward for stealing the cap is the reward of having conquered your inner demons. Oh, fuck off. I want money. Like, give me, like, I don't want one of those types of rewards.
Or we've awarded you a quest.
Yes,
now
exactly.
You go on a
you
quest.
Are level 7, I can't even say it. You're a level 7 sleep paralysis Jedi. You stole the cap. Yeah.
We've leveled up.
and what if, like, and are you always, is there only one of these things? Are there multiple amatadori demons? Because, like, if it's only one and he's only got 7 caps and 7 people steal the caps, like, what happens? Then is there no reward? Like, do you just get tormented by a demon? He's like, haha, I have no caps left. No treasure for you. Or is there like a store of red demon caps somewhere that he goes and gets another one? Like, shit, got to go get another one. All right. And then the last one, the last culture I looked at was in the South Pacific. And this is in the beautiful islands where I will go one day, of Fiji. Oh God, if you ever Google Fiji, like, trust me, it's one of those places that you're going to go to and I'm never leaving. Like, I'm just from Fiji now. This is... If anybody needs me,
this is it for me.
I'll be on the beach. It is like concerning. It isn't that what they call the Ring of Fire, which is that huge Pacific ring of volcanoes. But if you're going to go down in a massive, like, super volcano eruption, what better place to do it than from Fiji? And I'm sure the view of the volcanic eruption will be gorgeous. So anyway, in Fiji, it's interpreted
it's a good way to go.
It's a good way to go. Like, I'm on the beach. There's a huge volcano, but it's fine. I'm just chilling on the beach. It's stunning. So in Fiji, it's interpreted as a canatevoro. Again, I don't know what language they speak in Fiji or how they even pronounce it. I can do it with the Italian, canatevoro, but I doubt they're Italians. And this one, you're actually being eaten. You're being eaten by the demon. And in most cases, this demon can be a spirit of the recently dead relatives. So recently, still fresh, the fresh dead relatives who have come back for some unfinished business. or has come to communicate something important, news, or something important to the living. And often, okay, so this is where it gets interesting. So you know, your family, you make noises to like alert other people, like help, I'm in sleep paralysis, please come and wake me up. And in Fiji, they actually, in Fiji, now remember, they describe this as being eaten by this carnivoro. And in Fiji, if people sleeping near you or near the afflicted person notice that they're in a sleep paralysis state, what that person who's nearby has to shout is "Kanya, Kanya," and that means eat. So they're actually encouraging the demon to have a feast, eat him. Which it's apparently it's in an attempt.
Terrifying.
No, but it's kind of sweet because it's sweet in its own demonic possession kind of way. Because what they're trying to do is to prolong the possession so that they have a chance to converse with the dead relative. So if I was like, if for whatever reason you and I were sleeping in close proximity to each other and I noticed you were in a sleep paralysis state, I'd be like, that's my grandma. Eat, because I'm hoping devour her grandmother. Because I'm hoping to get a chance to talk to Gran. So it's a chance for the person to prolong the possession and to continue the feast so that they've got a chance to converse with the dead relative of the spirit and to seek answers as to why they have come back. And then on waking up from the experience, the person is actually often asked to immediately curse or to chase the spirit of the dead relative. So as soon as you wake up from your sleep paralysis, you're going to be like, fuck off, go away.
After you invited them to stay to eat.
No, okay, so you haven't, if you're experiencing the sleep paralysis, you are not the one inviting them. It's the person who's sleeping next to you. So again, this comes to where...
No, I get that, but I'm saying what a mixed message, like, come here, go away.
Come here, go away. Like, it's pretty rude, right? And so on waking up, you're told to immediately curse them or to chase them out. And that sometimes involves literally speaking to the spirit and telling him or her to go away or to use, and this is where using expletives. So you can actually wake up shouting, fuck off, grandma. You know, like, again, it's to do with possession. I love the fact that they want to prolong the possession because no other culture in the world is like, I would like this possession to last a little bit longer. Like,
to continue. Yeah. How much must you not like the person laying next to you to go there?
You know, I mean,
it's like, it's okay for you to be sacrificed.
Again,
it's
this comes back to, you know, like one of those things where you get the weird, like, necrophiliac who's found you through your sleep paralysis Tinder profile. And you wake up with them shouting, eat, while they're dry humping you.
You know, I wasn't expecting a cannibal tale. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, right. So, like, apparently after you die and you're in Fiji, you become a cannibal. You're a cannibal demon. My Cannibal Grandma. That's a great title for a podcast. My grandma's a cannibal. And,
I'm sure it's taken, like all the rest.
Oh, geez. You know, seriously. My best friend's a cannibal, of course. But you actually, it's lovely. You shout Kanya, Kanya, because you want them to continue eating. I would be offended. I would be like, for fuck's sake,
so
you know,
offended.
like, wake up and I'd be like, seriously, it's your turn. Like, I was possessed last week. It's your turn. Exhausting. Like, anyway, so that pretty much sums it up.
You only have 10 fingers and toes, so.
You know, like, so we've got in China, it's the ghost that's pressing on your body. In Kashmir, it's people who don't clean their houses. In Pashtun, it's the two-fingered ghost who doesn't have any thumbs. In Ethiopia, it's because you're jonesing because you haven't had your fix of the cut. In southwest Nigeria, it's your spiritual spouse, and you need Christian prayer and elaborate rituals. And in Sardinia, it's the guy with 7 red caps, and you're going to get a treasure at the end. And then, of course, it's your dead grandma who's coming to cannibalize you in your sleep if you're from the South Pacific. Yes.
The buffet.
And then I think, you know, like the sleep paralysis thing has been done to death in most podcasts, but I think we brought a new spin to it. But obviously in North America or in the Western culture, we attribute it to this thing called the night hag. And it's this like old crony lady who comes and just sits on you and strangles you while you're sleeping. So that's it. That is the cultural globetrot round the world explanation for sleep paralysis. But what I took away from it, though, is that it is most definitely part of the human condition. Because it seems every culture, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what weird little isolated island in the South Pacific you're actually from, has some experience and explanation of sleep paralysis, however questionable that explanation might be.
So what that really says is that alien abduction happens everywhere.
All the time.
Now we know.
Constantly. Everybody's being probed. Everyone except me.
Except you.
Everybody except me is being probed. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's because I'm putting the thought out there, like, hey, I want to be probed. They're like, oh God, don't be so needy. Like,
All right.
don't you fucking
gotta
hate
play
the
hard
needy
to
ones?
get.
You gotta be like, please don't. They like, maybe they've got like a slightly questionable like motive. You know what I mean? Like maybe they've also got a bit of Schadenfreude about it. Oh my God, the Germans are aliens. But they've got a different Schadenfreude. Like we take a lot of pleasure in the fact that you do not want to be probed. Like if you want to be probed, we're not that into it. It's the Germans. They're aliens.
I don't know who our market is anymore because you've really alienated.
We pissed off just the whole planet. So. It's fine. I'm enjoying just us having a conversation.
For the other half, stay tuned.
We are both the hosts and the audience of our podcast.
That's true. We're waiting for your mom to sign
and my mom, and she's going to get as far as the like, you're stoned, and she'll be like, fuck this, I'm not listening to this anymore. It's like, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it was him. Cool. So that is the cultural aspect of sleep paralysis. I'm still going with science. It could be aliens. Like there's just so many. We'll never know because we're sleeping while it happens, so we never really have the explanation.
We could turn on the cameras. Well, first of all, I would like to say I'm really grateful that you did the cultural one because I couldn't pronounce two of my words in the science one, so I can't imagine having to know all the words that you just said.
I was winging it. I was doing it phonetically. So if there was a K, an A, an N, and an A, I say kana. For all I know,
sounded right to me.
For all I know, in Fiji, it's got a completely different. I did look at the other Southeast Asian cultures like Vietnam and Cambodia and Thailand and those places, and those words were pretty fucking weird. And a lot of them started. A lot of them had like skipping. I was just like, yeah, I can't say that. I'm not going to do it. But a lot of them like always, and obviously having lived in Asia for 11 years, I've traveled to these places many times, and the word PHUK, fuck. It appears in an awful lot of their vocabulary. So I didn't want to be like sleep paralysis is all about the fuck. Fuck sleep paralysis. It's the demon called fuck.
And yet you still went there.
And yes, I still went there. I did. Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's interesting. It's there's a lot of interesting explanations. And I love the romanticized idea that these different cultures give to it about the dead relatives coming to get you. I don't know if romantic or romanticized is right, but I love the esoteric explanation that they all give to sleep paralysis because somewhere a group of them got together in year 102 AD and they all were like, what the fuck is going on with that? And somebody offered up the explanation, it's your dead granny and she's eating you. And everybody was like, yes, that's it. That's definitely. Like, I wonder how many other ideas were tossed around the table before we think it's that one. It's definitely that one.
The jaded hudband meeting.
The jaded husband, like the lazy house worker, like. For that
Which one did you think was the most haunting?
The most haunting? I'm going to say... Well, look, I really, really love the idea of the one that it's maybe not the most haunting, but the one that I really enjoy the most is the one about the housework, the one from Kashmir. Because
that's the one I would have said.
I absolutely adore the fact that there is a demon sitting in the corner of your house going, you dirty fucking bastard. Like, can you just have a sweep for fuck's sake?
Pick up after yourself.
Like, demon in corner doesn't do windows. I love that idea. It's just like resentful and and it's almost like it's a demon with some OCD who's like, I'm not touching that. I'm not touching that.
Exactly.
I'm not touching that. And surely, and it's in every household, according to them, every single household has one of these. So I don't know if it kind of comes with the property. Or if is it something...
Does it travel with you when you move?
Do you get one assigned to you for life and it's moving around with you from place to place? Is it included in the estate agent's tour of the home?
And do they name them?
It's a 2-bedroom, cool. 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, got a garage and a housework demon.
His name's Henry.
Yes. Henry. His name is Ahmed, and Ahmed wants you to do the dishes.
Yeah, I did go with a very English name, didn't I?
You did, Henry. It's terribly, terribly anglicized
name. Of course it's
name.
Henry.
Yes, but I believe in Kashmir you would pronounce it Henry. But
Oh, there you go. Just more back of the throat.
Yeah,
I
more
would
back,
guess.
more glottal stoppy. But so that's the one that I find the most charming. You know, I'll be having a word with my housework demon and doing some apologies today because during isolation I haven't been terribly good at it. So I'll be having an apology session with my housework demon today. So that's the one I find the most charming. But I think the one that I find the most haunting, I'm going to go with the one in Fiji, the South Pacific one, where it's eating you. Like you're being eaten by a dead relative or a demon.
And it's being cheered on by your bedmate.
And being cheered on by the people in the house. Like you wake up and they're like, eat him, eat him, eat him. And everyone's disappointed. I think
that would be more scary than the demon.
Yeah.
Just hearing people chant, eat him.
Thanks, Mom. Jeez. Like, heck.
I am not a buffet.
Yeah, so it's concerning, but also like I like the fact that it's the recently dead relative, so it's freshly dead. So if you haven't had anyone, if you haven't had anyone die recently, like you'll be fine. They do kind of buffer that with the explanation of it's either a demon or your dead granny. Like those are two very polar things. Could be this
if no one's died recently,
demonic entity from the bowels of hell, or your gran. You know, like, it could be one of the other.
So how do they know if? Oh, because they would know that somebody had just died.
Oh,
so probably they don't cheer it on if it's the demon.
Maybe like where the sensation of eating occurs. Grandma ain't gonna eat you out.
That's just so gross.
That's awful. Oh God, I think my grandma.
I just immediately went to fingers and toes.
Fingers and toes, just nibbling. Nibbling. Like you wake up with like your nails have been bitten on.
Nibbling.
Nibbles. Yeah, just nibbles. Just nibbling on on an appendage.
The peckish grandma.
So those are the cultural. Obviously, look, I went and had a look at the gospel according to Reddit as well. I'm not the biggest fan of Reddit because it's absolutely endless for a start. And, there's just no control over the quality. To me, Reddit is like the landscape of the Lord of the Rings because it's just fucking trolls and ogres wherever you look. Trolls everywhere.
It feels clunky.
It does.
Clunky and disorganized to me.
It does. Yeah. But one of the things I read one of the stories, and I've just got a little excerpt of it here. So I'm going to read this one very quickly. This is by a Reddit poster called Theta Sigma, because there's 3 A's because they have no sense of restraint. So it's Theta Sigma on Reddit. And this he or she, I don't know, this frat boy, or do you call them frat girls in the States? No, sorority sisters.
Sorority.
So it's either a frat boy. Is like the Theta Sigma give you any indication of gender? Like, do you know things like that? I do not.
I don't. Okay. With that many A's, I'm thinking it has to be a guy, right?
Yeah, it's just like, it's some like fucking frat boy who has no sense of moderation. But so Theta Sigma on Reddit actually posted 6 stories or 6 experiences of sleep paralysis. I always take these, we're talking about demons and sleep paralysis, so pinch of salt anyway. But there were 6 and most of it was crap. But this is one of the few, and again, I think this might be completely made up. This one I liked because it actually had a positive spin, which, when you talk about sleep paralysis, it's demons and grandma's eating you and the housework demon. And this one has a positive spin. So here it goes. This one happened last night, and it was really short. I was spending the night with my girlfriend, and she was sitting beside me drawing. And as I was about to fall asleep, sleep paralysis kicks in, and I see an angelic woman standing in the corner of the room. So angelic, that's a nice spin. That's a new spin on it.
That is nice.
Yeah. She had long blonde hair, average height. Long blonde hair. She was average for an angel, seen many, average height for an angel,
sure.
And had a very calming aura around her. That was, and we're going to come to this in the pet peeve, she had a very calming aura around her that was literally glowing. Good and accurate use of the word literally. We'll get to that in a moment. But back to them. This person said, please climb up this ladder. And there was this ladder that was also glowing and leading into his or her girlfriend's ceiling. My eyes instantly closed, but for the first time ever, I was still in sleep paralysis, and I felt this dark presence next to me, so I began grunting, and I heard my girlfriend ask, are you awake? Are you okay? And she kept shaking me until I woke up. This was the first time I've had sleep paralysis in a few months, and it was a very short but very odd. I find sleep paralysis very fascinating and wish we knew more about it and these common figures that people see, which is true. The shadow figure and a shadow figure wearing a top hat or like a hat is also quite a common one. I know this isn't the case for everybody that has sleep paralysis, as some people hate it and are terrified by it. Ever since I was little, my dreams have been stranger than the average person. I don't know, like, did you take a poll? Did you do a survey? I've had some pretty fucking weird dreams. And this has made me fascinated by dreams and what brains do while we sleep. So I like that one because it was one of the very few who actually highlights it as like a positive, angelic, average height being that's standing in the corner and is inviting them to climb up a ladder. Which, I really wish that, what was at the top of the ladder? I mean, like, was that an invitation into heaven? Like, where were you going there? Where does the ladder go?
It sounds like more work.
It does, it does. Like, I forgot. That was the housework demon. That was the housework demon being like, you got to clean the gutters. Have you seen the cobwebs in the corner? Get up up the fucking ladder, you lazy bastard. Cobwebs in the corner.
They just had a very positive outlook about housework.
About housework, yeah. I get it. So I like that
and
one.
to not alienate the Doctor Who people, I did look up Theta Sigma, and that is a Doctor Who reference. So it's not a...
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
It's,
in all my life...
informally known as Theta.
Okay.
There you go.
I know theta is also like one of our brain waves. Like it's one of the states of our consciousness. We have theta brain waves, and I believe it's something to do with like one of the meditative states or the higher consciousness states, I think.
That explains why Doctor Who linked onto that one.
Yes.
Huh?
I've never actually, I've never watched an episode of Doctor Who, not one of them. And as long as that show's been running, I've never seen an episode. And I have a very good reason why, because I'm going to fucking love it. And I need to be able to. I mean, it's been on for like I think Jesus used to watch Doctor Who because it's been on forever. And I
watched it as a kid. I haven't watched it since I was a
yeah.
child.
I mean, obviously, I'm from like the backwaters of South Africa, so we didn't have fancy things like television when I was growing up, and electricity, things like that.
Sure.
But, I know I would love it if I did watch it. So I've got to be very careful because then just months of my life will disappear, and people are like, where have you been? I'll be like watching Doctor Who with my housework demon. We've been busy. Place is a mess. Demon's pissed. We're hooked on the TV show.
I lived out in the middle of nowhere, so we only had a channel and a half, and that one happened to play on PBS. So that it was a lack of options, but I enjoyed it. But it was a lack of options, in fairness.
I know now they've I think the most recent episode, because I see these things on the internet, and I think now for the first time they've got a female Doctor Who, which is very
female.
Cool. I believe.
I just heard that as well.
Yeah. So all girl power, female Doctor Who.
So this is good. We at least have.
We've got the feminists back on our side. Yay, female Doctor Who.
Finally, we'll have a market. We'll go after Doctor Who.
What we need is a black female homosexual Doctor Who, and then we'll just be like on all the fronts. We'll be like, that is the most empowered Doctor Who. Preferably with with like some sort of a physical challenge as well, like a black, deaf, blind. Homosexual.
Now you're back to alienating everyone.
Absolutely everybody. But anyway, all right. So one of the things we also decided we were going to include in our podcast is our pet peeve corner. Things that just piss us off.
Yes.
And we were talking about this, and I said we needed to save this. We were having a text back and forth, and it was the use of the word literally. And the incorrect, or the rather like overused word literally is literally the most annoying thing in the world.
Literally,
it pisses me off, as opposed to metaphorically. And people use this all the time, and it really grinds my carrots. Like it really, really does. I had a girl the other day, because I do a lot of like home cooking, and I post my food and things like that on social media because I need other people's approval of the things that I eat. And I posted something like, because so long story short, I've recently given up all refined sugar. And I just did the social media.
Done.
I know, right? And it was. We'll go into that in another episode because that was an experience. But I'm fine now. Everything's fine.
But I'm fine.
I'm fine. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. But I posted something about like I'd really love like when I say like, okay, I'm giving up refined sugar, my brain immediately goes like, oh, chocolate. And I'm like, no, I said I'm giving up refined sugar. It's like ice cream. And I posted something along those lines because I'm witty as fuck on social media. And one of the people who's like on my social media replied with, oh, you should make your own homemade sorbet with fruit. Which really pissed me off because like 3 days earlier, I'd actually made a post with homemade sorbet that I'd used fruit. So fuck off, okay?
How did they not know?
Done
They are
that.
not following you the way they should
You
be.
know, like,
following you.
geez, like keep up or keep out. But and then proceeded to give me the recipe for how to freeze fruit, which is very, very straightforward. You literally freeze the fruit, and I was like, really, as opposed to like what metaphorically, like, you know, like metaphorically freezing, just ignoring fruit, making it feel frozen out, like just. So
They gave you the ice recipe next.
just give your fruit bitchy looks from across the kitchen. Icy cold stare, cold shoulder to the bananas, cold shoulder. So my pet peeve of the day is the word and the incorrect use of the word literally. And I can use this correctly. It literally pisses me off when you use the word literally incorrectly. I get angry. Friendships have ended over this. Like I literally cannot even talk to you anymore. You are literally no longer my friend anymore. Fuck off. Anyway, what's your pet peeve? Stone?
You want there to be a circle in Dante's Inferno for the literally crap.
a literal circle in hell for you people.
So mine is LOL.
LOL. Lol.
And the reason being, if it's used correctly, no problem. But often I'll say something that's mildly amusing and somebody says LOL. And I think, are you really laughing out loud?
Is it really happening right now? Are you
is
like,
that really that funny?
Are people on the streets stopping and looking at you and be like, why the fuck is that crazy guy laughing? No, I agree with you.
I want evidence. This is really happening. Literally happening.
You are going to have to literally send me videos right now of you lolling, or this is, I'm never speaking to you again. Like
I've said that to people. Are you really? Genuinely, are you really?
Like you're questioning. I'm questioning you about this. This is an interrogation, and I need fucking answers. Okay, I agree. But I'm so guilty of it though. Like I'm so guilty of LOL almost being like used as punctuation. Like
right.
Like LOL. And I've actually got to be very careful because I can text pretty fast because I've got the thumbs of an they're just.
The demon doesn't have.
Exactly. I've got more thumbs than a sleep paralysis demon from the Middle East, which has no thumbs. So even if I had one thumb, I'd be in better. Anyway, like I almost use it like punctuation. I'll be like, "Hey, how you doing today?" LOL. Like it's super. Like what's funny about that? But you got to be careful because you're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, your grand died." LOL.
LOL.
I've got to be very careful. And I get like
that's awesome, LOL.
It is. That's amazing, LOL. And then there's a big difference between capitalized LOL, like all three are capitals, a single capital L, and then a small and a lowercase OL, because that's like a like a general ha, and then they've moved on with the day. Capitalized LOL is like you are sincerely actually breaking down with laughter right now. People are calling like authorities, be like, there's a crazy person on the loose. And then there's the all lowercase LOL, which is like I am acknowledging that you've spoken, nothing funny about what you've said. I know you think it's funny, but it's not. Small case LOL.
I think mine comes down to validation because I'm a riot, truly. But I want to know that it's the appropriate LOL. Like that really wasn't that good.
Maybe we should start like in our text. We should start including like levels of LOL. So this is like an LOL level 1. Like this is level 1 shit.
7.
Like this is level 1 shit. This is level 1 LOL. I think you can do better. I think let's push for the 3 today. Let's push for a 3. Yeah. Okay.
Are you doing a bit? You need to work on the bit.
You're gonna want to go back and just think that through a little bit. Like, so now that we've alienated every millennial from our podcast, LOL,
and you.
Yeah, I can agree. The use of LOL. I'm also guilty of the haha as well. Like, hey, what you doing? Haha.
Me too.
And it's such an automatic. Like, it's such an automatic thing. Like, my fingers just seem to want to type it by themselves. Unless
it's not
I
even
use it
coming from you anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's the LOL demon that lurks in my house, hangs out with the housework demon, infiltrates and possesses me while eating me. But yeah, so LOL and the word literally. Like this pet peeve corner is sponsored by the letter L, literally, and LOL.
The letter L.
LOL. Stone, it has been magical. It has been magical, and I think we need to let our listeners go, and I think we need to get along with our day. We are going to set up all sorts of like social media accounts and email addresses and things like that for people to be able to get in contact with us. And obviously, we would like to hear about your scary and questionable experiences of sleep paralysis. So once you know where to email or where to shout out, we'll let you know and tell us about your sleep paralysis. Possibly by the time this episode goes live, it'll be in the bottom of our show notes. We'll put our contact information as it is right now. Fuck all. We barely scraped a name together. It's just like, manage your expectations, please. All right. From me, from Xander, it's a goodbye.
And from Stone, thank you so much.
Later, bitches.